This is News Fash, the podcast where fashion and news meet for your weekly dose of insider insights. I'm your host, fashion journalist Mosha Lundström Halbert, and together we're going to stay up to date and open to learn about fashion from a variety of perspectives. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of News Fash Live, where I will be recapping the week's top fashion news stories and unpacking some of the most talked about reports, plus my favorite part, taking all of your questions as well, and also on YouTube, all under Newsfash. We had a very big week in the world of fashion news when it came to earnings reports and financials. If you're just joining us, we are going to be diving into one of TikTok and the internet's favorite topics, and that is Hermès. The sales reports for Q4 of 2024 of Hermès just came out, and as expected, Hermès is on the up. People cannot get enough of anything and everything they make, but they're especially seeing growth amongst their most high ticket items, such as their Birkin and Kelly bags. And their sales were actually up 18%. They had projected a 10% growth, but this expected increase of 10% was actually 18% and caused the Hermès shares to jump by 4.5%. Really interesting when you dig into this report a little deeper. The growth was in Asia, excluding Japan. The Japanese market for a lot of luxury brands has softened. I think that has to do with pricing, and also the Asian consumer is the Chinese consumer is either wealthier and able to shop within China and has better access to luxury products. Because if you think about it, it's only been like 10 years that luxury brands have really prioritized their retail footprint in China. Before, the Asian luxury consumer used to have to go abroad and continentally, primarily to Japan, because Japan was kind of like the gateway for the luxury market 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, which is why the Japanese secondary luxury market is so strong, and you can find products from Hermès and Louis Vuitton in really great condition and also for good prices depending upon your currency and exchange rate. Anyways, the fastest growth that Hermès saw, if you can guess what country, what region that was for them globally, it was America. And I believe that in no small part has to do with how popular this brand is on TikTok. And just the sheer amount of user-generated content that there is around Hermès on this app, virtually none of which is actually paid for by Hermès. None of it is actually even solicited by Hermès. This is all happening by their very engaged consumers. Some of this content obviously can err on the more gratuitous side. Some of it can be more voyeuristic. I don't know about you, but there's like, what is that? It's a British Hermès retailer called Love Luxury. I don't know if you know it. They're based in London, and I get sucked into their videos where people go in there and they say, oh, I just got my divorce settlement and I'm looking to get a blue and white and gold bag or something very like specific and random like that. And then they end up finding something. But when it comes to user-generated content on social media around Hermès, my very favorite creator in this space is not nearly as big as many of the others that you might be more familiar with, and I encourage you to check her out. Her name is Nadine Kasuga 89, and she is basically the ultimate, in my opinion, Hermès consumer. She's incredibly sophisticated. She looks like Princess Diana, should Princess Diana not have been taken from us so early on. She's like that similar hairstyle and like ability to mix sporty and very chic pieces. Her Hermès collection spans her 3 homes in Tokyo, London, and New York. I mean, talk about goals. And she's not just all about the most obvious pieces. Like, she introduced me to this Hermès bag that I had never heard of called the Yo, after Michelle Yeoh, that I think came out in the early 2000s and can be worn like 3 different ways. Her collection is so robust and unique and interesting. Yes, Mrs. QD says Nadine is the best. I'm really glad to hear that some people have already discovered her as well. And it just, for me, I feel like she's one of the only people on this app that is a true Hermès consumer, like in that most authentic of ways, where she clearly is extremely wealthy and only doesn't really need to prove anything. And this collection is a real passion project for her. And she wears Hermès so lightly, if that makes sense. Like, she's just wearing it with jeans, a great pair of loafers, and like a Chanel jacket. And you can tell, like, she's kept all her pieces. She'll be like, oh yeah, I got this in the 90s. Oh, I got this in the early 2000s. It really shows like what loyalty she has to the brand. And if you think about this type of consumer and how valuable they must be to a brand, how any brand would love to have it. Yeah, if somebody could write in, her handle is N Kasuga, NKASUGA 89. And check Nadine out now that I've gone on that tangent. Holly said, I totally missed who we're talking about. Holly, we are talking about my favorite of the litany of Hermès content creators on this app. A British woman who lives in Tokyo, London, and New York, named Nadine Kasuga, who has the best collection of Hermès that I've ever seen. And, certainly is helping Hermès continually increase their growth across continents, because she lives in 3 of them. But the executive chairman of Hermès, Axel Dumas, did go on to say, when you're looking at the current climate and the threat of like tariffs affecting Hermès's ability to remain so successful and competitive, he said that they can cope with any tariffs and they'll just simply raise prices, because in the grand scheme of things, their price increases have been quite conservative. And as a result, Hermès is outshining rivals like LVMH, even though LVMH has 75 brands. Hermès has 1. I think they might own a few other brands. Like, I think they own like a shoe brand as well. Was it JM West? I think they do own a shoe brand. And they have, LVMH has 10 times as many employees as Hermès, if you can believe it. So it's definitely a really interesting story. Miss QT says, yeah, I saw the Yo too. Check out the Yo bag. It's so discreet. And seeing Nadine's collection really makes me think, do I need an Hermès bag in my life? Because I just don't want to bandwagon and get something just to have it because it symbolizes a certain sect or class. Like, I want to get a bag that really, I'd only get a bag if it really matched my personality and I felt like it was a really unique design. And I think it's easy. John Lobb, thank you. John Lobb is the shoe brand that Hermès owns as well. Actually, my husband wore John Lobb shoes for our wedding, so I should remember that. Fifi said, Cardi B's Birkin collections go crazy. Yeah, she does have an insane collection of Birkin bags. But again, I don't find like the way they're showcased, and it's different than Nadine. Nadine is just like, I'm going to get groceries. This is the Lindy bag in this Matt Croc. Oh, I'm going to get a coffee. This is like one of my many Constance bags in, this special lizard. It just all feels incredibly unique and like a real collection that spans the decades. Anyways, the other thing that sticks out to me about Hermès when you look at their rivals, like Kering, who we'll get to, and LVMH, is the fact that if you look at Hermès, they don't do any red carpet. They're not dressing anyone on the red carpet. Think of how much money and time and energy LVMH is spending on their Louis Vuitton and Dior celebrity ambassador contracts, and then the time and money and energy that goes into dressing these celebrities, covering their styling costs, flying in seamstresses to do final fittings, and then just the cost of producing these one-of-a-kind garments themselves. Hermès doesn't have to do any of that. They also don't do any celebrity gifting. Cardi B bought all those bags. Nadine Kasuga also bought all of hers. Nothing has been gifted to her. I'm sure when you're a loyal Hermès customer, they'll gift you like a deck of cards or like a twilly scarf or a bottle of perfume or something like that. But nothing more than that. You're not being gifted a bag, no matter who you are. Like even Kim Kardashian, Gwyneth Paltrow, like the most A of A-listers, not happening. And then very little influencer marketing. Like I think they work with a few influencers maybe to come to their shows, but I don't really think anyone's being paid, maybe just dressed. And their brand success story really does speak to the power of like this perception around exclusivity, this ingrained also reputation for quality, this emphasis on like trend proof design, and then also the power of user-generated marketing and not so quiet luxury. But what do you think also has attributed to Hermès continuing to grow and grow and grow? Let me know in the comments, and I'd love to take some of your questions in a bit too. But as I jump into the next story, we need to talk about another brand that had a winning week when it comes to their reports. And let me know if there's any other fashion news stories of the week that you'd like to discuss from the Super Bowl to New York Fashion Week. But I wanted to let you know that it just came out today that Moncler has reached over $3 billion. And they also beat their projections. They had a 7% growth, and they attribute that to the strength of their direct consumer business. So that's when they're selling directly to their customer through their website and stores. And they also had growth in China. And I think, and Moncler also owns Stone Island, and they said in order to continue to increase their sales, they will be increasing their prices in 2025. And I guess for certain categories and certain types of brands, they can afford to do that because they don't have as many SKUs as a house like Louis Vuitton or Gucci that is in all these different product categories. Like it was only a few years ago that Moncler got into footwear. So it really is mainly outerwear and like a slim apparel assortment relatively, and like basic core collection designs when it comes to apparel, and then introducing novelty, but not extreme novelty, to the consumer through their outerwear that has allowed Moncler to like really reduce their number of SKUs, probably not run into the same problem that so many brands get into that causes their downfall in many cases, which is over inventory and not being able to sell through at a high enough rate, and therefore not achieving their sales goals or their profitability. But Moncler has had no problem doing that. And I think it speaks to the strength of their brand, that where many luxury brands now are coming to terms with the fact that there's a pricing problem across the luxury sector. Brands like Hermès, Chanel, and Moncler, and Brunello Cucinelli are continually increasing their prices. One brand, though, that doesn't fall into this trend is Ralph Lauren, because they have quite a spread when it comes to their brand pricing, from like their Polo collection, obviously their Ralph Lauren, which is a lower like bridge line in department stores, all the way up to Purple Label, or even Double RL, which is more on the expensive side, not as expensive as Purple Label. But Ralph Lauren also reported a sales increase a couple weeks ago for Q4. So it does seem like the luxury consumer is turning to like tried and true brands at the moment that aren't known for as trendy designs, which brings me to Kering. Oh, Kering. I'm sure you might have seen, because this report came out a few days ago, but their revenue was down by 12%. and their wholesale was down by 20%. And their chairman, Francois-Henri Pinault, husband to Salma Hayek, said that, quote, Gucci will come back. And he feels very confident that Gucci, is not the height of fashion or desirability at the moment, but it will be soon, or has the potential to be again. And I think this is something that I've been speaking about on length in recent episodes as well, that I just think Gucci as a brand is a trend that comes in and out of fashion. And they are not in fashion at the moment. I think, in everyone's wardrobe, you can't go wrong with like a good Gucci loafer. The Gucci belts, maybe not as much, but the rest of what Gucci has to offer usually relies heavily on trend, or the Jackie bag as well would fall into that category. And the aesthetic of Gucci undergoes a complete overhaul every decade or so. If you look at like what Gucci was prior to Tom Ford, then the Tom Ford era, which lasted about 10 years, and then the very commercial Frida Giannini era, which took a while to find success, and then the Alessandro Michele era, which was like a lot more fantastical and maximalist. And now I just don't think they know where to go next. I think the initial proposition that we got, that we thought we were going to get from recently departed Gucci creative director Sabato De Sarno, was this is going to be a return to Tom Ford era sizzle with the current penchant for a more minimalist approach. And I don't think either of those things fully materialized. In fact, I often found his work like quite derivative of what he had done at Valentino, with like the little short sets and the little like peplum jackets and then the quite beautiful gowns. Like I really think that was his strong suit, was the gowns, but clearly it wasn't enough. Someone says a little Gucci dress. Yeah. I think honestly, if Gucci just zeroed in on little Gucci dresses, amazing loafers, fun like platform kind of disco dancing shoes, very like 70s. Like I feel like Gucci's at its best when it feels like it's from the 70s. And when it deviates too much from that, it doesn't work as much. I mean, even if you look at what Tom Ford did at Gucci, it was extremely inspired by the work of Halston at his peak in the 70s. And Alessandro Michele really drew upon a lot of like retro 70s references as well. If you could place his work in any decade, it would be the 70s. But yeah, little dresses, great loafers and platforms and boots, and kind of retro leaning bags. And I think they could have a great business. But I think it's trying to do all the other things and delving too far down this like path of logoed tracksuits that really affected the brand identity, because people can wear Hermès in a really tacky way, but you might not know it. But Gucci, when you have your logo spotted all over something, and then you have customers wearing that logo that are then repping your brand, and then people see that and don't necessarily want to be associated with it. Someone says, I wish that a brand would double down on their unique characteristics. Yeah, I think like really knowing who you are and who you aren't is kind of the key to success. And that's why Hermès does so well. You're never going to see like a sexy evening dress from Hermès or something that's kind of like rock and roll. No, everything they do feels like you could wear it to go watch show jumping or get on a private plane or go to brunch in the Hamptons or the Cotswolds. Even if none of those things are part of your experience, they're creating that lifestyle and that ability to fantasize about what your life could become through their products and through that very aspirational customer that they attract. So that's my thoughts there. I do have to go soon because it's Valentine's Day and I'm here in the UK, so it's a bit later here. But a few more questions. Recipe says, what lipstick are you wearing? It's so beautiful on you. Thank you. I am wearing a combo, actually. It's the Maybelline Cheeky Lip Vinyl, which I really love because it stays on forever. And it's quite close to my natural lip color. But the secret is you have to put it on, swipe twice. I learned this on TikTok, and then not like blot your lips together, and then it stays. And then I love the Summer Fridays Lip Butter Balm. It's like a more grown-up Rhode lip peptide. I've never tried the Rhode, but I just really like the Summer Fridays formula. Even the way I said that, Summer Fridays formula, that sounded like TikTok speak. I didn't like that. In Vanilla Beige, which is very, very good. Anyways, I just want to thank everyone so much who joined today. And I hope you enjoyed this little update. And I'm posting a whole rundown of New York Fashion Week very soon, because even though everyone keeps saying, oh, New York Fashion Week's gotten so small, New York Fashion Week's gotten so small, it's slimmed down, but there's still like a lot going on that we need to cover and kind of unpack and look at the trends. And it's so nice because we have a little break before London Fashion Week, which starts end of next week. And I'm really excited to check out a bunch of the emerging talents coming out of London. And then, of course, some of the big designers like Erdem, Burberry, Simone Rocha, and then designers like right in the middle, like SS Daily, who recently got an investment from Harry Styles. I'll be checking out that collection as well. So lots to look forward to in London. I'll be taking you behind the scenes as well at the shows. And let me know if there's anything else that you would like to see at London Fashion Week. I'm just double checking if there's any other questions that we should talk about here. Oh, somebody said about Nadine. Nadine responded to me last week and she said she turned down several Himalayans. That's so badass. Yeah, Nadine is, if you take away one item of information, actually it's your homework for the week, because you know we do fashion homework every News Fash live. It's check out Nadine Kasuga 89 for my favorite influencer that isn't even trying to be an influencer, but just is so friggin' chic and is the Princess Diana that I wish still existed for our times. But I do feel like if Princess Diana was still alive, she would dress like Nadine and she would probably be living in London, Tokyo, New York as well. Don't you just think? Anyways, I gotta go.
That wraps your news fash. I'm Mosha Lundström Halbert. Stick with me here and over on TikTok to stay up to date on all things fashion. If you have any questions or guest suggestions or feedback, please drop us a line at mosha@newsfashmedia.com.